the UN sort of have a try at pushing for peace. And so you get the US, the UN, Russia, and EU forming something called the Quartet. And interestingly, this gives you a sense for how the conflict is seen by some people as a more of a global conflict. So, for instance, with the US tending throughout history to support Israel quite strongly, and Russia, previously the Soviet Union, supporting in the past Egypt, and in the present supporting more. Recently, that's become more complex, and I'd recommend that's a good place for research, actually, if you're interested in the more global aspect of this question. Russia and Putin sort of changing views in the conflict. However, Russian support for Syria in the region is still strong. Okay, and so that's essentially why, in brief, you get these countries, because it's sort of seen as two sides. The US and the EU are sort of supporters of Israel. The UN, most countries recognize the right of a Palestinian, majority recognize the right of a Palestinian state, as did Russia. So here's what they say. I put the link to read the whole roadmap, though it isn't very long, so you could read that all pretty quickly. And it says, Israel takes all necessary steps, this is what they want, to help normalize Palestinian life, because there's all kinds of controls, bureaucratic controls on what Palestinians can do in the occupied areas, whether they can drill a well, whether they can farm here, farm there, all kinds of controls. So they say Israel needs to withdraw from any areas that they've occupied since 2000, since the Intifada, where Israel fought back quite severely. They need to normalize life in the occupied areas, and they need to stop all settlement activity, any expansion beyond Israel's Green Line. They also say that there needs to be a weapons confiscation program undertaken internationally, and any Arab states need to stop funding groups that engage in violence and terror. So that's their roadmap for peace, which, as you might expect, is ignored for the most part.